They put me next to the kitchen like a nobody at my twin sister's wedding, but I made sure they'd regret it. Hi, I'm Nicole. This is not just a story, it's a turning point in my life. A moment that taught me that silence doesn't always mean peace, and being kind doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. You see, I've always played the quiet twin, the supportive one, while Natalie, my sister, took the spotlight since we were kids. I didn't mind it, honestly. I loved watching her shine. But something changed the moment she got engaged. What was supposed to be a celebration of love turned into the most humiliating day of my life. At least that's what they planned. They shoved me next to the kitchen, pretending it was an honest mistake. But I saw the seating chart. I saw my name scratched out from the front table and squeezed into the corner, right between the coat rack and the dish return. This isn't a story about revenge. This is a story about standing up, about learning that even when you're pushed aside, you can still steal the show. Before we begin, I'd be glad to know that my story gets to people in different parts of the world. Please let me know where you're watching from. And to all of you who've joined this growing community, thank you. Your support means more than you know. Let us begin. The wedding invitation arrived in a crisp ivory envelope, Natalie's elegant cursive spelling out my name, Nicole, like an afterthought. No note, no, can't wait to see you, like she'd sent to her bridesmaids. Just the date, time, and venue, cold as a stranger's RSVP. I held it, my thumb tracing the embossed roses, and felt the first sting of what was coming. Natalie, my twin, my mirror image, had always been the sun while I was the shadow. I'd cheered her on, dimmed myself so she could shine. But this felt different, deliberate. I should have known the rehearsal dinner would set the tone. The restaurant buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and Natalie's voice carrying over the crowd. I sat at the edge of the bridal party table, picking at my salad, when I overheard her. "We can't have Nicole up front for photos," she said to her bridesmaids, her tone light, like she was discussing table settings. "She's too plain. It'd throw off the color palette." The words landed like a slap. I froze, my fork midair, as her maid of honor giggled. My mother, sitting nearby, chimed in, her voice soft but sharp. "Let her be, Nat. She's used to it." Used to it. The phrase burned, coiling in my chest. I met Natalie's eyes across the table, her smile faltering for a split second before she turned away, launching into a story about her dress fitting. I didn't speak. I didn't react. But something shifted inside me, a quiet spark I hadn't felt before. I excused myself, claiming a headache, and left early, their laughter echoing behind me. Have you ever been dismissed by the people who should love you most? How did you handle it? Share in the comments. I'd love to know I'm not alone. And if you're new, hit subscribe for raw, honest stories like this. The wedding day arrived, bright and crisp, the kind of morning that promised perfection. I'd spent weeks saving for my dress, a deep emerald gown that hugged my curves and shimmered under light. I'd felt beautiful in the store, twirling in front of the mirror, imagining Natalie's smile when she saw me. But as I stepped into the venue, a sprawling estate with chandeliers and rose petals scattered across the floor, that hope flickered. A staff member, a young guy with a clipboard, glanced at me. "Miss, Natalie's sister, right?" "It's Nicole," I said softly, my smile tight. "But don't worry, no one ever remembers." He nodded, distracted, and led me through the reception hall, past the head table, where Natalie's name glittered in gold calligraphy, past the bridesmaids' seats, draped in silk, to a corner table, tucked behind a pillar, right by the kitchen door. The coat rack loomed on one side, the dish return on the other, already rattling with plates. "Here you are," he said, gesturing to a lone chair. "Enjoy." I stood there, my dress catching the light, and felt the room tilt. Grease from a passing tray splattered my hem, a dark stain blooming on the fabric. I sat, the chair wobbling, as the kitchen door swung open and shut, servers rushing past with trays of shrimp and champagne. Across the room, guests toasted Natalie, her laughter bright, her white gown glowing. She didn't look my way. No one did. I sipped my water, my hands steady but my mind racing. This wasn't a mistake.
I'd seen the seating chart at the rehearsal, my name inked neatly at the head table. Now it was gone, scratched out, relegated to this corner like I was an afterthought. I could have stormed out, confronted her in front of everyone, but I stayed, watching, waiting. The open loop tightened. What was Natalie playing at? Why go this far?
Then came the twist. During a lull, I flagged down the event planner, a brisk woman named Claire with a headset and a clipboard. Sorry, just curious, I said, keeping my voice light. Was the seating always like this? She frowned, flipping through her notes. No, actually. Your name was at the main table originally. Natalie called last week, insisted we move you here, said it was better for the aesthetic. She hesitated, her eyes meeting mine. I'm sorry, I thought you knew. Better for the aesthetic. The words hit harder than Natalie's rehearsal dinner jab. My twin, my other half, had erased me from her perfect day. Not by accident, but by choice. I thanked Claire, my smile polite, and returned to my seat, the kitchen noise drowning out the toasts. My dress was ruined, my place stolen, but something else was growing inside me. Not anger, not yet, but a quiet resolve. They thought I'd stay silent, blend into the background like always. They were wrong. I watched Natalie dance with her new husband, her smile radiant, and felt the spark from the rehearsal dinner flare into something sharper. I didn't know how I'd make them see me, but I would. This wasn't about revenge. It was about claiming the space they'd tried to deny me. And as the night unfolded, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't invisible. Not anymore. The kitchen door swung shut behind me, the clatter of dishes fading as I sat in my corner, Claire's words echoing. Natalie insisted we move you. My emerald dress, stained with grease, felt like a costume for someone else's life. Across the room, Natalie twirled with her husband, her laughter a blade. I could have stayed there, invisible, the quiet twin who never made waves. But the spark inside me, ignited at the rehearsal dinner, fueled by her deliberate snub, had grown into something I couldn't ignore. I wasn't here to fade, not tonight. I excused myself, slipping through the crowd, my heels clicking on the polished floor. The reception area hummed with chatter, but I zeroed in on a microphone stand near the dance floor, set up for impromptu toasts. No one had invited me to speak. No one expected me to. That was the point. I took a breath, my heart pounding, and stepped up, lifting the mic from its cradle. The room's buzz faltered, heads turning as I tapped the mic, a soft thud echoing. I wasn't asked to speak today, I said, my voice steady, cutting through the silence. But I thought, why not speak now, since nobody thought I'd have anything to say? Natalie froze mid-twirl, her smile slipping. Her husband glanced at her, confused. My mother's wine glass paused at her lips. The room was a sea of wide eyes, but I didn't falter. I could have unleashed my hurt, called out the scratched-out seating chart, the too-plain jab, the years of being pushed aside. Instead, I spoke from a deeper place, my words raw but deliberate. Natalie, you've always been the star, I said, meeting her gaze. I've loved watching you shine, every school play, every milestone. I never needed the spotlight, but today, sitting by the kitchen, I realized something. Being your twin doesn't mean I'm less. It means I'm part of you, even when you try to erase me. My voice wavered, but I pressed on. I wish you love, Nat. Truly. But I wish you'd loved me enough to let me stand beside you, not behind a pillar. The silence was heavy, guests shifting uncomfortably. Natalie's eyes glistened, but her jaw was tight. I set the mic down, my hands steady, and walked back to my seat, the room's whispers trailing me. I hadn't insulted her, hadn't screamed, but I'd laid the truth bare, and it stung more than anger ever could. If you were in my shoes, would you have spoken up, or stayed quiet to avoid drama? Tell me in the comments, and if you're new, hit subscribe for more stories like this. The night wasn't over, and neither was I. What would Natalie do now? That question hung open, a thread I wasn't ready to pull. The microphone's faint hum lingered as I returned to my corner by the kitchen, the weight of my words settling over the room like a fog. I'd spoken my truth, not with venom, but with raw honesty, and the silence that followed was deafening. Natalie's face had crumpled, her radiant smile replaced by a tight-lipped glare before she spun on her heel and stormed toward the exit, her white gown trailing behind her. Guests shifted in their seats, their whispers rising like a tide, some shocked, some awkward, others tinged with agreement. I sat, my stained emerald dress catching the light, and felt the spark inside me flare brighter. I'd stepped out of Natalie's shadow, and there was no going back. The whispers grew louder, a buzz of "did she really say that?" And poor Natalie, but my mother's sharp heels clicked toward me, her face a mask of fury. She leaned close, her voice a hiss. "You embarrassed the family, Nicole. Keep it together." I met her eyes, my pulse steady. I told the truth. If that's embarrassing, maybe the problem isn't me. Her lips parted, but no words came. She straightened, smoothing her dress, and walked away, her disapproval trailing like perfume. I exhaled, the kitchen door swinging behind me, servers oblivious to the drama. I'd expected to feel guilt, maybe regret, but instead there was a quiet strength, a certainty that I'd done what I needed to do. Natalie had pushed me aside, and I'd pushed back, not with cruelty, but with clarity. Then my cousin Marcus, always the quiet one at family gatherings, pulled me aside. He glanced over his shoulder, making sure no one was listening. "It's about time someone said it," he said, his voice low but firm. "Natalie's been treating you like a prop forever. I'm proud of you." His words hit deeper than I expected, a lifeline in the chaos. "Thanks," I said, my throat tight. "I didn't plan it. It just happened." He nodded, squeezing my shoulder. "Doesn't make it less true." He slipped back into the crowd, leaving me with a flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I'd thought. The reception stumbled on, music restarting, guests forcing laughter to fill the awkwardness. Natalie reappeared, her smile plastered back on, but her eyes avoided mine. I stayed in my corner, watching her dance, her husband's hand on her waist, the room pretending nothing had changed. But it had. I felt it in the glances thrown my way, some curious, some admiring, others judgmental. I didn't care. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. Then came the twist, one I never saw coming. A few days later, my phone buzzed with notifications, dozens, then hundreds. A guest, someone I barely knew, had recorded my speech and posted it online with the caption, "The forgotten twin speaks truth at her sister's wedding." The video was everywhere, Instagram, TikTok, even local blogs. My face, my voice, my pain, laid bare for the world. "I'm part of you even when you try to erase me," I'd said, and now strangers were sharing it, commenting, "This gave me chills and she's so brave." Others were harsher, drama queen, or ruining her sister's day. Lo, my inbox overflowed with messages, support, hate, and everything in between. I sat on my couch, scrolling through the comments, my heart racing. I hadn't meant for this. I'd spoken for myself, not for a viral moment. But there it was, my truth rippling beyond that corner table, beyond Natalie's control. I wondered what she thought, seeing her wedding day reduced to my speech online. Did she regret scratching my name off the seating chart? Did she feel the weight of her own words, too plain, now that mine were echoing louder? My mother called, her voice sharp. "Nicole, this video, it's a disgrace. Fix it." "Fix what?" I said, my tone calm. I spoke my heart. "If it's out there, that's not on me." "You're tearing this family apart," she snapped, then hung up. I stared at my phone, her words stinging but not sinking in. I wasn't tearing anything apart. I was building something new. Myself, my voice, my place. Marcus texted me a link to the video, adding, "You're trending. Keep shining." I smiled, a real one, and replied, "Trying." The world was watching, and for once it wasn't Natalie they saw. But the open loop lingered. Would Natalie reach out? Would she apologize or double down? And what would I do if she did? The viral post changed the air around me. At work, coworkers whispered, some offering shy smiles, others avoiding my eyes. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years sent messages, saw the video. You okay? I was okay. Better than okay. I'd stood up, and the world had noticed. But I wasn't naive. Natalie's silence, my mother's anger, they weren't done with me. This wasn't the end, just a new chapter, and I was ready for whatever came next. If you were me, would you have stayed quiet that night, or let your truth out like I did? And how would you handle your words going viral? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I need to hear your stories. If you're new, hit subscribe. This journey's just getting started. I'd walked out of Natalie's shadow, but where I'd go next was still unwritten, and that uncertainty felt like freedom. The viral video of my wedding speech hung over me like a storm cloud, its reach growing daily, thousands of views, then millions. Strangers debated my courage or cruelty online, but Natalie's silence was louder. I'd stepped out of her shadow, my words echoing beyond that corner by the kitchen, and the world had seen me. But the cost was real. My mother's sharp calls, the family group chat gone quiet, the weight of being the twin who'd caused a scene. I didn't regret it, but I wasn't prepared for what came next. A week later, my phone lit up with Natalie's name. My stomach twisted, but I answered. You ruined my wedding, she shouted, her voice raw, trembling. Do you know what people are saying? That I'm a monster, that I hate my own sister. I took a breath, steadying myself. No, Nat. I refuse to let you erase me from it. She laughed, bitter and sharp. Erase you? You were there, weren't you? I didn't kick you out. You put me by the kitchen, I said, my voice calm but firm. You scratched my name off the head table. You called me too plain for your photos. That's not inviting me. That's tolerating me. Silence stretched between us. I could hear her breathing, fast and uneven. You're so dramatic, she finally spat. Always playing the victim. You think that video makes you a hero? It makes you pathetic. Then why are you so angry? I asked, my words cutting through her venom. If I'm nothing, why does my voice scare you? She hung up, the line going dead. I set my phone down, my hands steady, but my heart racing. I'd expected her to lash out, but her words still stung, digging into old wounds. She'd always been the star, the twin who dazzled, while I faded into the background. But this time, her attack didn't shrink me. It fueled me. I wasn't the victim she wanted me to be. The real shock came later that day. My dad called, his voice soft, hesitant, the opposite of Natalie's fire. Dad had always been distant, more likely to praise Natalie's achievements than notice mine. Nicole, he said, pausing like he was choosing his words carefully. I saw the video and... I'm sorry. I froze, gripping the phone. For what? For always being more proud of Natalie, he said, his voice cracking. You were just as bright, just as special, but I didn't show it. I should have stood up for you then, and at the wedding. I failed you. The words hit like a wave, heavy with years of unspoken truth. I'd spent my life chasing his approval, settling for scraps while Natalie basked in his pride. This apology, so late, should have felt hollow. But it didn't. It was raw, real, and it cracked something open inside me. Not pain, but relief. Thanks, Dad, I said, my throat tight. It means something. He promised to visit soon, to talk more. I hung up, staring out my apartment window, the city lights blurring. Natalie's anger, Dad's regret, they were pieces of a puzzle I was still solving. What would happen next? Would Natalie double down, or would she crack under the weight of her own choices? The open loop hung there, unresolved, but I felt steady, grounded. Have you ever heard an apology too late, but it still meant something? Drop it in the comments. Natalie's call had backfired, and Dad's words had shifted something deep. I wasn't just the forgotten twin anymore. I was Nicole, and I was writing my own story. Dad's apology lingered, a quiet anchor in the storm of Natalie's rage. Her call had backfired, her accusations only sharpening my resolve, while Dad's unexpected regret cracked open a door to healing I hadn't known I needed. I felt steadier, but the viral video of my wedding speech kept rippling, its reach stretching far beyond my control. Strangers' comments, some cheering, others condemning, flooded my inbox, and the family's silence grew heavier. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew I wasn't fading back into Natalie's shadow. Then, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed with an email from a local talk show, Morning Light. "We saw your speech," it read. "We'd love to have you discuss family dynamics and standing up for yourself. Your story's resonating." I stared at the words, my heart racing. Me, on TV? I'd spoken at the wedding to reclaim my voice, not to chase fame. But the idea of sharing my story, of connecting with others who'd felt invisible, sparked something. I said yes, nervous, but ready. The studio was bright, the host warm. "Nicole, your speech struck a nerve," she said on air. "What made you stand up?" I took a breath, my hands steady. "I was tired of being erased," I said. "Not just at the wedding, but my whole life. I loved my twin, but love shouldn't mean shrinking yourself." The words flowed, raw but clear, and when the segment aired, my phone exploded. Messages poured in, not just from locals, but from strangers across the country. "I was the forgotten sibling too," one wrote. "Your speech gave me courage to speak up." Another, "I cried watching you. I've been the quiet one my whole life." Their stories mirrored mine, each one a thread weaving a community I hadn't known existed. I didn't want fame, but this was different. Connection, purpose. The messages inspired me to start a podcast, Scene, where I shared stories of being overlooked and finding your voice. The first episode, just me talking into a cheap mic, got thousands of downloads. I began writing too, jotting down essays about family, identity, and the cost of silence. Doors were opening, small speaking gigs, a literary agent's email, opportunities I'd never imagined. I wasn't chasing the spotlight, I was building something real. Then came the twist. Natalie texted, her name on my screen like a ghost. "Can we talk?" "I'm sorry." No explanation, just those words, blunt and late. I stared at it, my thumb hovering. The internet had turned on her. Comments on the video called her selfish, cruel, her perfect image cracking under scrutiny. Her Instagram, once full of wedding glow, was quiet, her last post buried under criticism. Part of me wanted to hear her out, to see if she'd changed, but another part, the part that remembered her, "You ruined my wedding," knew better. Her apology felt like damage control, not remorse. I didn't reply, not yet. The open loop hung there. Would I ever respond, or let her sit with the silence she'd once forced on me? I kept moving forward, my podcast growing, my words reaching further. The talk show had been a spark, but the stories from others, forgotten siblings, overlooked friends, were the fuel. I wasn't the quiet twin anymore. I was Nicole, seen and heard. Have you ever found strength in someone else's story? Share yours in the comments. I'd love to know what moved you. If you're new, hit subscribe. We're building something together. Natalie's text was unanswered, but its weight lingered. What she did next, and what I'd choose, was still unwritten, and I was ready for whatever came. Natalie's unanswered text sat heavy in my phone. A fragile thread stretched across the chasm between us. The viral video, the talk show, the podcast, my world had shifted, built on the strength of my own voice and the stories of others who'd felt unseen. I was no longer the twin by the kitchen, but Natalie's silence, then her sudden, "Can we talk?" stirred questions I couldn't ignore. Was she sorry, or just cornered by the public's judgment? The open loop tugged at me, and after days of wrestling, I replied, "Coffee, tomorrow, 10 a.m., no warmth, just a time and place." I needed to see her, to know if the sister I'd loved still existed. The cafe was quiet, sunlight filtering through the windows. I arrived first, my hands steady around a latte, my emerald dress swapped for jeans and a sweater. Comfort over performance. Natalie walked in, her usual glow dimmed, her eyes wary. She wore a simple blouse, no makeup, a far cry from the radiant bride who'd erased me from her head table. She sat, avoiding my gaze, and ordered a black coffee. The air between us crackled, heavy with everything unsaid. "You didn't have to make it a spectacle," she started, her voice sharp, defensive. "That video, do you know what it's done to me? People think I'm a monster." I sipped my latte, letting her words hang. "You put me by the kitchen, Nat. You called me too plain for your photos. You scratched my name off the seating chart. That wasn't me making a spectacle. That was you." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't fire back. Instead, she leaned forward, her voice dropping. "I always thought you were fine with being in the background. You never complained, Nicole. You just let me shine." "Being quiet doesn't mean I don't feel," I said, my tone even but firm. "I loved you enough to step aside, but you took it as permission to erase me. That's not love. That's control." Her eyes glistened, and for a moment, I saw the Natalie I'd grown up with. The one who'd shared secrets with me under the covers, who'd cried when I broke my arm in 5th grade. But that girl was buried under years of her need to be the star. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, her voice cracking. I wanted everything perfect." "And you're so good, Nicole. You don't need the spotlight like I do." "Good?" I echoed, a bitter laugh escaping. "You called me plain. You laughed about it with your bridesmaids. Don't rewrite this now." She broke then, tears spilling, her hands covering her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was selfish. I was scared. I didn't know how to share you with the world." Her words hit hard, raw and messy. I wanted to believe her, to hug her and pretend we could go back. But I couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. "I hear you," I said, my voice soft but steady. "But sorry doesn't undo it. I needed my sister, and you chose yourself." She nodded, wiping her eyes, no defense left. We sat in silence, the cafe's hum filling the space. It wasn't a hug-it-out moment, no tearful reconciliation. But we'd spoken, laid our truths bare, and that was something. A crack in the wall between us, not a bridge, but a start. I paid for my coffee and stood. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Nat," I said, "but I'm not waiting for you to see me anymore." She didn't stop me as I walked out, the door chiming behind me. The autumn air was crisp, the city alive with noise. I didn't feel triumphant, no surge of victory. Instead, there was peace, quiet and deep, rooting itself in my chest. I didn't need Natalie's approval, or the spotlight, or even the world's applause from that viral video. I knew my worth, not because I'd stood up at her wedding, but because I'd kept standing, every day since. The podcast was thriving, my essays gaining traction, and the messages from others, forgotten siblings, overlooked friends, kept coming. I was building something real, not just for me, but for them. Natalie's breakdown in the cafe was hers to carry, not mine. If she reached out again, I'd decide then, but I wasn't holding my breath. My story wasn't about her anymore. It was about me and the life I was crafting, one truthful word at a time. Walking home, I passed a street performer singing about freedom, her voice raw and clear. I tossed $1 in her hat, smiling. Freedom wasn't loud or flashy. It was this, knowing who I was, even when no one was watching. The open loop with Natalie remained, unresolved, but it didn't define me. I was Nicole, seen, heard, and whole. Have you ever found peace by finally standing up for yourself, even if it shook things up? Let's talk about it in the comments. Your stories keep this community alive, and if you've made it this far, thank you for being part of it. Like, comment and subscribe for more real-life stories that hit close to home. The next one might just spark your own.